I mean, who do you give top billing to on a track like this, right? Featuring two legendary singers, both of them iconic, as the kids would say, in their own genres and their own rights, and also both of them having crossover appeal. So who do you give top billing to? I would have hated to have been the record executive that was negotiating album credits for this particular song. George Michael and Aretha Franklin, or Aretha Franklin and George Michael, depending where you want to sway on this one, coming together for I Knew You Were Waiting. And this one came out back in the late 80s, 87, if I'm not mistaken. And it did really, really well, too, for Aretha Franklin, because I think it finally cemented her crossover appeal, giving her biggest all-time Hot 100 single in the Billboard charts to date. And that was this particular song that did that for the diva. The interesting thing, though, is that the two of them had known of each other and had been tracking each other's careers and were fans and appreciators of each other for many, many years before they actually got to work together. And there was a story that says that George Michael had an opportunity to actually write music for Aretha back in the mid-80s when he was still very busy with Wham, the group. But he was so starstruck and felt a sense of imposter syndrome where he felt he was not ready to write for the Queen. Like, how dare I write a song that Aretha Franklin could possibly sing? My goodness. Thankfully, he got over that. He got over that, and it led to a wonderful collaboration, and I think also just a beautiful appreciation and friendship for each other. I Knew You Were Waiting is how we open up the show today. I hope you had a great weekend. And managed to get in some rest. I know a lot of people are complaining because this is the first full week in a very long time. But hey, it is what it is. The long holidays are done now. The long weekends are done now. We're going to go in this dry spell for many of months without enjoying any kind of break. But we'll power through. We've got lots coming up on the show. We're talking International Day of the Midwife, which is celebrated annually on May the 5th globally as well. So we're going to be catching up with matron, midwife and member of the Limpopo Obstetrics Response Team. Sister Mutlake is going to be joining us. Also, we're giving an opportunity. You can register your girl child for the 2025 Flow Tech for Girls. It's a 10-week free global workshop, and we'll find out more as to what's in store at the Flow Tech for Girls. May is also Africa Month. We're kicking off Africa Month, so we thought we'd catch up with Lerato, author of Vagabond, and just talk about traversing and traveling Africa. Have you traveled Africa? Like, have you traveled beyond South Africa into other parts and other regions of Africa? And what was your experience during your travels? Good, bad, what you anticipated, what you thought it would be? I actually would love to hear from you if you've traveled the continent a little bit and gone on some adventures here, whether it was for business or leisure. We'd love to hear from you. You can give us a shout on our WhatsApp line. 061-410-4107 is where you can send through your WhatsApp voice note. I'll share some of my stories and some of my perceptions around traveling the continent when that conversation comes. I'll let you know what's coming up on the other side of 2, closer to the time. It is The Full Circle with myself, Bridget Masinga, on SAFM, leading the conversations that move the nation.
Rise and shine every weekday morning on Expresso.
Now, whether it's a motivational Monday or even a Health Tuesday, this is the best way to start your day.
Let our trending tech keep you ahead of the curve.
Join us online and vote in our fashion poll.
Elevate your cooking skills every Wednesday.
It's the best and morning entertainment.
So wake up with us.
6 to 9 a.m. on S3.
Cheers.
Bafana want to seal their envelope to East Africa with a paramount victory in front of their home fans. But the Flames plan to double the heat. This is the second leg of the final round of the Total Energies CAF Chan 2025 qualifiers. South Africa tackles Malawi on Sunday, 11 May at 2:30 p.m. Streaming live on SABC+, SABC2 and SABC Sport on DTT Channel 4. Also available on SABC radio stations at 3 p.m. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport.
For the love of the game.
You're listening to Bridget Masinga on SAFM.
All right, as we get into our first conversation this afternoon, we're catching up with Sister Motlake, who is a matron, a midwife, and a member of the Limpopo Obstetrics Response Team. Today is International Day of the Midwife, and it's celebrated annually on the 5th of May globally. And this year's theme is Midwives, Critical in Every Crisis. And we'll find out exactly, how that speaks to the profession of being a midwife. And the whole aim of the theme is to highlight the crucial role that midwives play in crisis preparedness, planning and response, especially in humanitarian settings. How are you doing this afternoon, Sister Motlake?
Well, I'm okay. How are you?
I'm all right. Thank you very much. Cannot complain. All right. I think maybe before we even get into the journey of, how you got to be a midwife, which began, from what I understand, around 3 decades ago now. But just a brief understanding, because I still feel that a lot of us still don't understand the concept and the role of a midwife.
The role of a midwife is to support and to assist pregnant mothers before delivery, taking them through the journey of pregnancy, during pregnancy,
Sister Motlake,
after the baby is born.
Sister Motlake, I want to try and switch you to a different line. We're just having some audio troubles on this line. If you just bear with us for 2 seconds as we do that. Today is International Day of Midwife, and so we're going to be having this conversation with Sister Motlake. But also on the calendar today, we're looking at Africa Month as it begins and kicks off today. Have you traveled and traversed Africa, and what was some of your experience? Were you pleasantly surprised at different African countries, surprised at, the culture, the cultural immersion of it all? Were you surprised at what your perceptions were around infrastructure? Were you surprised at how people received you as a South African, or in whatever you come from? Because let me not just assume that it's South Africans only that listen to the show, because it's not just South Africans only that listen to the show. I'd love to hear from your perspective around your travels on the continent. 086 000 2032 is the number that you can call us on for that, and my producers will capture your info and then call you back at the respective time, or you can give us a shout on WhatsApp on 061 410 4107. Do we have Sister back on the line? Okay, we've got Sister back on the line. Let's take a quick break and then we'll be right back.
This summer, SABC brings us together anytime, anywhere. Catch all the drama, entertainment, and sport on SABC TV. Turn up the volume with your favorite hits and shows on SABC Radio. Stream wherever you are with SABC Plus and join the fun at unmissable SABC events near you. From breaking news to moments that move us, SABC is your companion for every summer memory. Celebrate a summer of togetherness with SABC, your home for connection, entertainment, and inspiration. You're listening to Bridget Masinga on SAFM.
All right, we are in conversation with Sister Motlake, who's a matron, a midwife, and a member of the Limpopo Obstetrics Response Team. Let's see if we manage to get her on a clearer line. We just think probably the geography of where the sister is at the moment, the network connection is a little bit dicey, but we'll see how far we can get. Sister, we've got you back on the line. Sister Motlake?
Yes, ma'am, I can hear you.
Oh, there you are. There you are. Fabulous. Let's yes, I was asking the role of being a midwife, because I think it's one of those that's lesser understood by a broad section of society.
The role of midwife basically is to support mothers before pregnancy, during pregnancy, at birth, and immediately after birth. That's where the midwife features. Her most important role is to support them even before they fall pregnant. Those that wish to be pregnant, the midwife takes them through teachings and assistance, preparing them for motherhood. When they are pregnant at antenatal clinic, they are supported there with preparation for the big day. When the big day comes, the woman is in labor, the midwife is supporting them through progressing them, delivering, supporting the baby, assisting with the birth, and even after birth, taking care of them.
Yeah. And this is something that's not foreign to a lot of cultures, particularly, I would think, actually not even just particularly African cultures. It's just the role of midwifery is not a foreign concept to cultures worldwide.
Indeed, it's not a foreign concept. Initially, the old ladies at home, it was their responsibility. But with development, that role has been professionalized, that midwives are there, trained, more skilled to do that in a professional way. Indeed, it comes from, it was performed by the old ladies at home.
Yeah. And of course, for you, not only are you a matron at one of the busiest hospitals in Limpopo, but you've been a midwife for well over 3 decades now. Walk us through some of your journey.
Well, when I started being a midwife, I was pretty young. When I joined nursing, my midwifery was incorporated in the basic training that I did. But then when I started working as a midwife, well, it was a bit challenging in those days because of the shortage of doctors. You find that there are many procedures that you needed to assist mothers with. You couldn't. But there was then the need that came for me to go and study further and do an advanced midwifery course. Basically, just to upskill you with the skills to do more procedures so that you can be able to do some of the things even in the absence of the doctor and be able to work independently. So it's quite something that needs passion. You need to love to do that so that you can perform it better.
And by way of integrating midwifery into a sort of Western system of healthcare provision for moms, are there at times maybe challenges there, or is it just a seamless integration of two ways of doing things?
No, the more Western things that you are talking about, it involves, isn't it now society is developing and there is so much technology and improvement, more civilization, basically to say, then there are more things that do affect midwifery, like the way mothers want to deliver. Some mothers will prefer to have a painless birth, and then that will then involve the physician, in that they would be given maybe a type of anesthesia so that they don't feel pain at birth. Some mothers will feel they will want to have birth in the bathtub. So these are some of the things that come with nowadays mothers, because they are learned, they read about these things and they want to improve them. But the basic things would remain a midwife's role to support, ensure the health of the baby and the health of the mother. And so in that, in all the 3 decades, I've seen support of pain management, for example. It has developed so much from the basic caring of the mother, because some of them, they start realizing they don't want pain medication. They will want that support of the partner being present, one of the relatives or what we call being present, rubbing the back of the mother. Some of them having some, usually in some cultures there's this fragrant, nice smells of some flower from in the room, just to keep that calm and tranquil environment to take the mother through. So it's quite something enjoyable if you love to do it. The only challenge will be when you find a situation that there are more hands needed and you are not able to individualize patients like you should because of the numbers, you see.
That segues us into the work that you do. I mean, you are a labor ward manager at one of Limpopo's busiest hospitals, the only tertiary hospital in the whole province. How do you navigate that? I can imagine that to what you've just said, that there are perhaps less hands than what is needed in that kind of situation.
Yes, it's true. But, when you're working with colleagues, midwives are people that, in their training, they are taught and they are willing to compromise a lot. Midwives compromise a lot. And you find that as a team, this one will touch here, this one will be busy there. You work by prioritizing situations. A more urgent situation, you attend it first, and then you will come to the lesser urgent situation. But basically, you will find that there are a few of them. You ask them, some of them, when they are off duty, she can try and finish what she's doing so that she can, the other ones can continue with the other work. But basically, it's just to manage the work with what you have, with the colleagues that are there, encouraging them. When people feel somebody is seeing and somebody is appreciating and somebody is there with them, they are able to go an extra mile.
And as we wrap it up in just a minute or less, you also work with the Limpopo Obstetrics Response Team. Give us an idea of the kind of work that you'll do there.
Well, the Limpopo team basically is because we are in a rural area, some of the people, our colleagues that are in the far up from the city, if you've got a challenge, then you are able to call any member of the team or post to any member of the team. For example, maybe you are in one hospital, you want an ambulance, and then you can maybe post to say, I'm struggling to get an ambulance, I've got an emergency to send to Polokwane, and then everyone else who's around is going to support that. And then we develop standards that are basic to guideline all the team so that we know, or when you've got a woman in labor, if she has got this condition, this is where you start, this is what we do. When you've got a woman maybe with this type of complication, this is what you do, this is what is done. Such basic guidelines to help us, to help our mothers limiting mortality and morbidity of our mothers and of our babies.
Yeah, very important work that you're doing there, Sister Motlake, with the Limpopo Obstetrics Response Team. And we thank you so much for the time. That is all the conversation that we can bring you today. Unfortunately, that connection, as you heard, Sister is based in the rural Limpopo, and so holding that cell phone connection was a bit of a struggle, and we apologize for the poor audio. It's just gone 1:30. It's time for us to catch up with the headline news. Ondela standing by, and then we'll come back on the other side and we look at Flow Tech for Girls.
Thank you, Bridget. On the news headlines, Electricity and Energy Minister Josianto Ramogopa says approving the electricity wheeling framework will accelerate private sector investment in electricity generation. Energy regulator NERSA has confirmed its approval of the framework. Trade, Industry and Competition Minister Park Stawu says government is determined to continue with the establishment of the Transformation Fund despite criticism. And residents and business owners in Bloemhof and Christiana in the northwest are now counting their losses. This follows the flooding of the area near the Vaal River, which has displaced many people and damaged properties. A full update follows at the top of the hour.
This Thursday on EFC, Africa's greatest meet the warriors of Brazil on a night where 3 titles will be contested. Amanda Lino takes on Mariana Salles, Willie Van Rooyen takes on Kleberson Sousa, and in the main event, JC Lamprecht goes to war with Luis Paulo Picanso for the light heavyweight title. EFC 123 live from the World Sports Betting Arena. Watch it on SABC Sport Channel on DTT Channel 4 from 7 p.m. Brought to you by SABC Sport.
For the love of the game.
The Blues and Gold ladies want to treat their clash against the Blue Diamonds like a final exam. They are chasing victory. But the visitors are confident they will prevail and conquer the entire match duration. This is the Hollywood Bet Super League. Witness UWC Ladies FC versus JVW Ladies FC on Sunday 11 May at 2:30 p.m. Streaming live on SABC Plus and SABC One. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport.
For the love of the game.
Bridget Masinga, weekdays on The Full Circle.
Alrighty, we are looking at Flow Tech for Girls now, where you can register your girl child for the 2025 Flow Tech for Girls 10-week free global workshop. And we wanted to see what this program speaks to, because it is a STEM program for black and brown girls ages between 11 and 15. And we're going to find out more from, we're just trying to get the organizers on the line quickly so we can find out more about what it entails exactly, because it also looks at, issues around menstrual health and technology, and how girls can gain hands-on experience creating safe and educational innovations and digital content for themselves and their peers. So a very, very important program, this one indeed. As soon as we get Itumileng on the line, we'll commence with that. But because it's also the 5th day of May, and literally it is the beginnings of Africa Month, we are going to be catching up with author of Vagabond Ulerato in a few minutes and talking around traveling Africa. And I'm very curious to know what your experiences, as you listen to me now, your experiences have been traveling the continent. And actually, here's the other thing that I'm curious about. I'm curious to know if you are of different African descent. For instance, if you are Nigerian traveling Africa, do you have a different experience? If you're Ghanaian traveling Africa, do you have a different experience? If you're a South African, you know what I mean? Because that could be an interesting thing to look into as well, and why you have a different experience. But for now, Itumileng Lebogang is joining us, businesswoman and the Botswana South Africa chapter president for Love Your Menses. How are you doing, Itumileng?
Hi, dear. I'm very well, thank you. How are you guys doing?
We are great. Thank you very much. So, Tech for Girls, talk to us about this STEM program for black and brown girls.
All right. So, Flow Tech for Girls is a 10-week online webinar that is targeting girls 10 years old to 15 years old to educate them on menstrual health. And this year, being our 3rd installment of Flow Tech for Girls, we're going to be pairing menstrual health education with AI tools that help us understand, map, and identify different dynamics, conditions that may evolve during our menstrual journey. So it's an educational program. It is completely free of charge. We hold these workshops on Saturdays from 4 6:30 p.m. to 6 p.m. We had our first workshop this past Saturday. We're going to continue with this until the first Saturday of July.
And by way of combining the learnings around menstrual health and technology, what does that look like? You mentioned that you've incorporated AI tools into the program.
Yes. So, for example, there are applications that exist that enable us to monitor our menstrual cycles. Some of these apps, in fact, the good ones are typically interactive. They allow you to also input and indicate when your period starts, when it ends. You can add information to it so that it can also tell you how to manage the symptoms you're experiencing. I don't have all the AI insight at the top of my head right now, but this is stuff that we're going to be sharing with the girls during the 10-week program to make sure that they are fully equipped and empowered. One of the other key things, actually, that we're also going to be doing is empowering these young girls to feel confident and shameless about their menstrual journeys. As Love Your Menses, we believe in the necessity for women and girls to menstruate without shame, because there's so many aspects to the menstrual experience that, for example, are not even researched enough. And that's because there's not enough of us confidently saying, you know what, this is a real life, day-to-day, month-to-month reality for more than half the world's population. We should actually understand it. So, you know, our goal is to have these girls appreciate their menstrual health as well as know how to navigate it with the technology that's evolving. Hello?
And really, there's such incredible technology, that's been integrated in the space just for the betterment of education, sharing, knowledge, etc., etc. So it's 10 weeks of a program, this. And I wonder, from also just the STEMing perspective, what do the 10 weeks of development and education look like for the girls, and ultimately what is the takeaway from them after the 10 weeks?
All right. So the 10-week program essentially has different modules spread across for each week. Essentially, we take them first through basic menstrual education, where they understand the correct biological terms for their body parts and for the menstrual events that take place in our bodies, the effects of hormones and all of that. The entire biology of menstruation is shared. Then from there, we unpack the different sorts of tools, AI tools that exist. So there's some that the team that's going to be facilitating those modules that they've identified that they'll be unpacking and sharing with the girls, and we'll be having these young girls actually give those apps a go. We work hand in hand with the parents as well, because obviously these girls are minors, and we encourage parents to be there supervising, so to speak, and to help their children participate effectively and learn. The girls do leave with a certificate, but over and above that, we also challenge the girls each week with some homework to write and express themselves based on what they would have learned in the lesson. And by the end of it, we also have them produce a short little selfie video that assert and in which they assert and express the insight that they have gained from the program.
Got you. So you mentioned that the program has already started with your first week down. So obviously the cohorts for 2025 are well in place now, everyone being selected. But since this is your third year, I'm assuming that there is an intention to roll it out again in 2026.
Yes, absolutely. This is an annual program. We're going to be rolling it out. To be frank, it's actually the first time we promote this in South Africa. We are hoping with this work that we're doing through this online program, as well as the work we're doing with Masizani Primary School in Atteridgeville, that we'll be able to actually identify people within South Africa who'd love to do this work. It's a voluntary charity organization, so the idea is really to inspire and to have those who are moved join us in this effort to spread menstrual education in ways that really help us girls and women live our lives in a healthier, more self-appreciating way.
Wonderful initiative. Itumeleng Lebogang, thank you so much for the time. And Itumeleng is a businesswoman and the Botswana South Africa chapter president for Love Your Menses. It's just gone 20 to 2 o'clock. Our WhatsApps are open on 061-410-4107. And of course, our direct phone line on 086-000-2032 is where you can call us. Would love to chat to you around traveling the continent and maybe even doing business on the continent. How have you found that? How has that experience been for you? I hear a lot of good things around Rwanda and some of the infrastructure they've put into place to facilitate inter-country business relations there. So I would love to hear, what your experience has been like from a professional as well as a leisure perspective as we enter African Month. Let's take a quick pause.
Top Sport with Michael Abramson.
Totally, I think it's Sundown's to lose, but it would be nice if it at least was a little bit more competitive because we haven't had a competitive ending to a league season for quite some time now.
Look, I think Michael Jose has done well because the first year it was over 20 points, the second year it was over, now he's closed the gap, but the gap was that great because the one thing that you look at the Sundowns team, and this is why it becomes important on squad compilation, the type of players that you get. You take a look at the Sundowns squad. Mshishi has not been part of the squad ever since the injury, but the Sundowns battle, they just kept going. You've got players that you can be able to say, and August can come and still want to be able to lay claim. Peter Shadula was not playing yesterday. So when you look at the squad, even those that you say, well, you may not necessarily get a nod for the CAF finals, but when you're given a chance, they want to stand up and say, hey, coach. But also on the Pirates side is that when you then look at the type of squad that they have, they've got a very strong 11, but beyond that strong 11, they don't have a backup team that will be able to say, we are here to compete. And that's where I think Pirates were being found wanting this season.
Top Sport on SAFM. You're listening to Bridget Masinga on SAFM.
All right, it is Africa Month. May is Africa Month, and we're going to be engaging all kinds of conversation around this theme. We're going to unpack some things that are serious, some things that are introspective, some things that concern us as Africans, some issues that are fun. And today we thought we'd start off on a lighter note, and we are catching up with Lerato Mokgwatle, who is the author of Vagabond, Wandering Through Africa on Faith. I never know where you are. We follow each other on social media. I never know in real time where you are. I never know if you're tweeting retrospectively about a place. Like I've just given it up to grace that you live beyond borders. How are you, Lerato?
It is the story of my life. I'm well, Bridget. How are you?
I'm great, thank you. I mean, you make it seem so easy. You make it seem like, I know part and parcel, it's for the love of the continent and also for the work that you do, in your professional life, takes you all over. But you make it seem so easy. Like you could just literally get on a plane today and decide, I want to work from Egypt tomorrow. Let me go.
Absolutely. I think one of the greatest joys of just existing as a Black woman who was born during apartheid and existing in an era where I have so much freedom and my life allows me to even imagine what freedom is to me. It includes freedom of movement and movement particularly within the continent. So you are right. I might just get on a bus right now and head to Botswana because I'm craving a trip to Sirowe.
And one of the other things I love, Lerato, is you say you might just get on a bus and go to Botswana. There's this perception that a lot of folks have that, in order to travel, it must always be at a particular tier level of comfort. You must always be flying business class and staying at 5-star hotels. But sometimes some of the best experiences are had depending on your tolerance of what roughing it is. But sometimes the best experiences I had when you just go out on a whim and see where the wind blows.
Absolutely true. Absolutely true. And I think, everyone is legitimate in wanting to travel how they prefer. So if you only want to travel business class and have a 5-star experience, I think that's amazing. But for me, I long ago recognized that if I wait until I can afford only the best of experiences, I'm going to die without experiencing this world. So I decided that there will be no barriers. So if I have to get to Botswana and I'm doing all of this on savings and on a salary, so I'm a working girl, so it means my money can only do so much. It can't do everything. I have to travel as my money dictates me to do so. Some places I get on a bus, other places I get on a plane, other times I'm your girl at a 5-star hotel enjoying myself. I mix and match everything.
Yeah, it's so interesting to me how, and I don't know what is your perception around how South Africans travel or don't travel. And I ask this because I look, for instance, at Poppy, who's got this incredible, it's curated, but it's unfiltered experiences that she shares with everybody. And I always search the comments, and it's always South Africans with the shock factor of, I can't believe you're doing that. I can't believe you're packing your bags and going by yourself. I can't believe. What is your perception around South Africans and travel, and our attitude more than anything towards traveling?
I think our attitude towards traveling is changing. So in the sense that a whole lot more people are traveling. I see it online. I experience it in my life, in my social circles. Even my mom has become a travel convert, going to Zanzibar for the first time. My aunt is in a travel club. My sister's begging to do a trip to Nigeria with me, like, girl, come down, And I meet so many people who have read Vagabond, and they keep saying to me, Lerato, I read your book and I traveled. I read your book and I went to Lake Kivu. I read your book. I started listening to Salif Keita's music and inspired curiosity. So I know that people are traveling. The shock factor with Poppy, and it used to apply to me as well in the beginning, is that people only readily identify with travel when you go away for a short period of time and come back. But there's this other part of it that's like a blank canvas. You just grab your passport and you just go. Whatever happens. I mean, look, this is Earth, and for us, this is Africa, is home. This continent is not fundamentally different insofar as the comforts of home are concerned, So as we do these things, that there's the spirit of Ubuntu, and you'll always be held in that spirit. That people will look after you. Africans, and I personally love exploiting this about us. We are very warm and welcoming. The number of times I've walked into weddings, into parties, and I do not know anyone, and everyone keeps asking, who are you? Where are you from? And maybe a guide that has seen me a few days prior goes, oh, who called you here? I was like, I heard the music and I came to dance.
Yeah.
And that applies whether you need a little money for transport, whether you need a place to sleep, whether you need information to know where to go. Everything is really, for me, I believe that the nature of the continent, the way that Africans are, is geared towards us being able to imagine experiencing the continent beyond just going on holiday, even if it's a little big adventure over a long weekend, and you get on in your car and you drive to Botswana, Zambia and Zimbabwe. Is it those three where there's a point where you can see the 3 land crossings intersecting? So things like that.
What you speak of around people being welcoming, I found this, and I think we've maybe even touched on this on Jet Set in one of our conversations. I found this, having explored just a little bit of the continent at my previous home, is that I think a lot of the times it's especially I speak as a South African because that's the only lens I can speak as. As a South African, we have a very narrow ignorance of how we will be received on the rest of the continent, or what the energy that we get from the continent will be. And once you travel, you realize, to your point, that A, people are mostly very welcoming. B, people just have that human curiosity around what's your story and what brings you here. I'm intrigued about why you're here. And I found that in the places that I've gone to as a Black woman, I felt very safe. I was telling one of my operators last week about Senegal and being in Dakar, and how safe I felt just wandering around, leaving my team, wandering around because I'm craving a chocolate at midnight.
Yes. And it comes down to exposure. You know, a lot of what we know from the stories we hear, from other people's experiences, from the media, from literature, from music, from arts and culture, actually. And so this is why conversations like these matter. This is why it's so important that even now on radio, for example, even outside of Africa Month, there's so much more conversations and so much more content that connects us to the continent, whether through travel, through business, through innovation, through politics, that are geared towards good leadership versus bad politics, and those all matter because that's how our perceptions are going to change. A second thing, and this is a big challenge to a section of South Africans who believe that migration is inherently bad. Migration makes our communities richer. My relationship with Johannesburg right now is that much more beautiful and that much more tender because I go to pockets of Africa, of the rest of Africa within my city. So when I crave very good coffee, I go to Mayfair to hang out with Ethiopians and Somali people. When I want Ivorian food, I go to Yeovil to the Ivory Coast House. Yesterday for lunch, I had Senegalese chep, the rice dish, that I got at the Senegalese house. And this richness allows me to have connections and understand the continent before I even go. I remember, Bridget, was it in 2011, I went to Rwanda for the first time and I went to the mass graves and I had such an emotional breakdown, and some of the conversations flashing through my head were like, you are a storyteller, Lerato. It's okay to break down and everything, but what are you going to do about it? And one of the things I immediately felt was I need to go to places that have experienced conflict and write them from a space of a place of love and home and life. And places like Somalia, I crying even more because how can I even go to Somalia? What sort of crazy is that? At the time, I only knew Somalia through the headlines. And then I started saying to myself, hang on, there's Mayfair down the road from where I stay. Let me start hanging out with Somalian people and start connecting with them and know Somalia through them, not through the headlines that 5 times a year are reporting a bomb blast. And that changed my perception of Somalia so much that I started actively seeking opportunities to go to Somalia.
I love that. I want to give our listeners a chance to also share some of their experiences. 0614104104107 is our WhatsApp line, and 086002032 is the number that you can call us on. Eddie in Cape Town, how are you?
Good afternoon, ma'am. I didn't get the name of your guest.
Lerato.
Oh, Lerato, yes. She's putting it nicely. But I think our relationship with South Africa with the rest of Africa has been bad because of immigration, So that underlying connotation is always there. I've worked in Africa all over, actually, when I was working for this company that made us do a project. And when one day I say to the people, we went clubbing in Malawi, everyone was like, are there any clubs in Malawi? And I said, okay, we don't really know Africa. But it's also a situation where those that have traveled, like some of us, it becomes a kind of a classist kind of thing to say, you guys don't travel to the rest of the guys, when resources are not always unlimited for many people. I've traveled because the company I worked for made me travel. But Africa, especially West Africa, I mean, in terms of food, they're very good. They're very good. I've had some best food. But as a parting shot, Ms. Bridget, one topic you had earlier, I just want to comment in passing, the midwife thing. You know, if you go to the rural areas and everywhere, I always say my gripe with this new government is refusing to give people RPL.
Ooh.
I mean, we grew up. Yes,
Eddie,
let me finish that.
No. Can I ask you with all the respect in the world? I love your contribution, but because we've moved from the midwife thing and we don't want to derail, rather send me a voice note on the midwife thing, and we'll double back on that. Love your contribution on the Traveling Africa. Thank you very much, Eddie. 086 000 2032 is the number that you can call us on, and 061 410 4107 is our WhatsApp line. We're talking traveling on the continent with Lorato Mokgwatle. If you have traveled for work or for leisure, however your experience has been, we would love to hear from you. And I think maybe Lorato Nati, we do traveling on the continent. Well, when I say Nati, I don't mean you, but Nati, we do traveling on the continent a disservice to Eddie's point around, you know, we say you don't travel, but we don't give reason as to maybe go there and hear this and see this and experience this. We don't market it in general conversation.
That's true. That is very true. And I always engage with that conversation from a perspective of what Bob Marley left us with. He said, emancipate yourselves from mental slavery. None but yourselves can free our minds, right? So there's a level where it's up to us. We live in the information age. That is one of the greatest privileges of us being alive now. We live in the information age, and connections are so easy that at some stage, I had a friend in Baghdad that I used to have daily catch-ups with, just facilitated through Twitter DMs. So make it a point to be curious. Ask yourself a question. You know, and when you ask yourself those questions, don't assume that it's not like the places you know. The question that you must always ask yourself is, what makes us common? What binds us? We all love groove. There's no place I've been in the world where people do not go out to enjoy music, to enjoy art, to enjoy food, to enjoy fashion.
Yes.
And every time you go to a place, you are primarily going, whenever a passport is involved, for most of us, you're primarily going because you're a tourist. So it also means you're already going to a destination. Destinations already come curated, right, to some extent. So there will be things. For me, I understand why people could ask, because remember, we hardly have access to these places, or rather, before YouTube, before social media, we had very minimal access to information and to knowing what these places look like in a way that satisfies our curiosities. But now go online and just Google night clubbing in Cairo, night clubbing in Malawi. Go on YouTube, you can see those things. And even if you do not find the answers that you're looking for, always remember this about places. It doesn't matter where in the world you are going to. Everyone gets hungry. So there'll be plenty of food to eat.
Lorato,
Everyone is on the move.
Let's leave it there for today. I have to get into the news, unfortunately. But that was author of Vagabond, Wandering Through Africa on Faith, Lorato Mokgwatle. Our WhatsApp lines are still open for you if you want to send through a WhatsApp, just sharing your perspective. Let's take a quick break and then into the news.
The Saints understand it's too late to change things around, but it's never too late to beat defending champions and bow with pride.
He chips the goalkeeper! It's an absolute beauty! It's an absolute beauty from Musa.
However, the citizens are forced to settle for a top 3 finish. They want nothing but 3 vital points.
Absolutely magnificent goal. Well, Phil Foden is still in a heap near the halfway line, but credit Andy Madley. He allowed City to continue.
This is the Premier League. Experience the superb battle between Southampton FC and Manchester City FC on Saturday 10 May at 3:30 p.m. Streaming live on SABC Plus and S3. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport.
For the love of the game.
Thank you, Bridget. Top stories at 2. Mpumalanga Premier reveals outcome of laptop purchase probe, and rapper Sean Diddy Combs trial begins today. For SAFM News, I am Ondelambana, and a very good day. Mpumalanga Premier Mandla Ndlovu says the Provincial Education Department did not follow the procurement process when it bought 22 laptops. He says the devices that allegedly cost over 2 million rand were also of poor quality. Ndlovu says the money spent on the laptops will be recovered from the service providers that allegedly connived with the departmental officials to inflate the costs. The implicated officials will face disciplinary action. Ndlovu was briefing the media on the outcome of a probe into the controversial purchase of the laptops.
The process involved misrepresentation and possible fraud in that the supplier misrepresented to the department that it supplied the goods as per the award when it knew that the laptops supplied were not in accordance with the specification. Officials of the department misrepresented that a correct and proper procurement processes were followed. Officials of the department misrepresented that the correct goods were delivered when that was not the case.
Electricity and Energy Minister Josiento Ramakgopa says approving the electricity wheeling framework will accelerate private sector investment in electricity generation. Energy regulator NERSA has confirmed its approval of the framework. It will see independent power producers selling directly to Eskom or municipalities. Ramakgopa addressed the media at Eskom headquarters in Sunninghill, Johannesburg.
What it's going to do is going to accelerate private sector investment in relation to, in part, rooftop solar solutions, but also utility scale on generation is going to happen because we have created a legal certainty. We have defined the rules on how you are going to import and export your electrons across the infrastructure of Eskom and or municipalities, whichever the configuration is.
Trade, Industry and Competition Minister Park Stau says government is determined to continue with the establishment of the Transformation Fund despite criticism. Stau says there is urgency in addressing economic growth in South Africa. The minister was speaking at the sidelines of the Business Breakfast Engagement session on the Transformation Fund in Pretoria.
Just to emphasize that the Transformation Fund is an aggregation of initiatives. It's not new money. It is actually an aggregation of resources that are already there, both in the public and the private sector, so that we're able to track what we're doing to maximize impact and value.
Residents and business owners of Bloemhof and Christiana in the northwest are now counting their losses. This follows the flooding of the area near the Vaal River, which has displaced many people and damaged properties. More than 100 households have been severely affected, with thousands of hectares of crops damaged. Water levels have since receded and residents have now returned to their homes. Sias Meyer owns a guest house.
The first time in 30 years, I've been here for 20 years now, but for the first time ever, the water was up in that top building. All our equipment, our mattresses, all our belongings is on the second floor, but who could believe that it would get that high? This is part of the kitchen area. Look at these debris. Look at these trees that came in here. All the tables and things are lying here. It's grim. At this stage, no electricity.
The trial of American rapper and producer Sean Diddy Combs will begin in New York today with jury selection. The musician faces charges of sex trafficking and prostitution. The BBC's Nada Tawfik reports.
Sean Diddy Combs rejected a plea deal offer, setting the stage for the high-profile trial of the music industry kingmaker. Prosecutors allege that from 2004, he led a violent sex trafficking organization that forced women to participate in drug-fueled sexual encounters with prostitutes, which he referred to as freak-offs. The public first learned about the allegations from Diddy's former girlfriend, the singer Cassie, but the hip-hop mogul's lawyers say the sexual encounters were consensual and part of a swinger's lifestyle.
Recapping the top story, Mpumalanga Premier Mandla Ndlovu says the Provincial Education Department did not follow the procurement process when it bought 22 laptops. I am Ondelambana for SAFM News. Headlines at 2:30.
He's short, loud, and definitely not a licensed therapist, but he's asking the hard questions. It's Heart to Heart with Kevin, the only talk show where the guests spill the tea and Kevin spills the jokes. Real talk, real laughs, and real short host. Heart to Heart with Kevin, Wednesdays at 7 p.m. on S3.
Marawai, why did you think you could change your tire when you've never even changed a light bulb successfully? Marawai, why not switch to Santam and get 24/7 roadside assistance to get you moving again? Choose the insurer with cover options that suit your needs. Call 0860 444 444 or SMS cover to 36101. Santam. This is freedom. Santam is an authorized FSP, a licensed non-life insurer and controlling company for its group companies.
This Thursday on EFC, Africa's greatest meet the warriors of Brazil on a night where 3 titles will be contested. Amanda Lino takes on Mariana Salles, Willie Van Rooyen takes on Kleberson Sousa, and in the main event, JC Lamprecht goes to war with Luis Paulo Picanso for the light heavyweight title. EFC 123 live from the World Sports Betting Arena. Watch it on SABC Sport Channel on DTT Channel 4 from 7 p.m. Brought to you by SABC Sport.
The Full Circle with Bridget Masinga, Monday to Friday, 1 to 3 p.m. SAFM. You are listening to The Full Circle.
Dark, and when the sun don't shine, friends come and go, and then there is no home. When you left outside, the night is too cold. Stronger, your soul is revived, and you is born, and now you have a story we're gonna sing. Bye.
Summer Jobe coming through. Yay, yay, yay is the name of the song. I mean, when she says it, it sounds a lot better, right? Yay, yay, yay. That is how we kick off 2 o'clock. It's just gone 10 past 2, and we're getting into a conversation now. Why visualization is a life skill every young person needs to learn about. We're going to be talking to a human performance coach and executive coaching consultant, Duncan Woods, around visualization. What is visualization? You see it all the time on, well, I think it's a sort of interpretation of visualization. Maybe it's the same thing and a different word being used when you're on social media and people talk about manifestation. But this is why we have Duncan here. How are you doing this afternoon?
I'm very well, Bridget. Thank you.
Fabulous. I'm great. Thank you very much. I mean, is it one and the same thing? Is it a case of tomato, potato, when we say visualization / manifestation, or different concepts?
Yeah, so I think it's basically just developing a picture of success. So when we're coaching individuals and teams, we normally ask the first question we ask is, what does success look like? What does good look like, right? And I think visualization is just engaging another set of senses to do that. So it can be perceived, manifesting something can sometimes be perceived as a little bit woo-woo, for want of a better description. I think visualization provides a little bit more practical detail, engaging a different set of, human faculties to try and make that more vivid, make it something you can see, because we always believe you need to see it before you can be it. And I think that's true for oneself as well.
Okay. I mean, I would have thought it perhaps the two concepts are interchangeable, and or at least how I've understood manifestation, for instance, because I've never sort of taken it from the perspective of, oh, well, if you just say, I want a BMW, like a BMW is just going to magically appear in 2 weeks out of nowhere. I would have thought that in your manifesting, there's also a comprehension that there needs to be some kind of strategic steps and practicality plan that is in place to get you the BMW. And then I would have thought the same of a visualization, that you close your eyes and visualize, as you say. Jump off question is, what does the picture of success look like for you? And if that is a BMW, how do I get from seeing it in my mind's eye to actually having it?
Exactly. I think the research tells us that the human brain actually struggles to distinguish between what is imagined. If you can visualize something vividly in your mind, your brain is unable to actually distinguish whether that actually happened or not. And I think that's helpful for us to know that we can really vividly imagine things, and our brain starts to get on board and starts to become almost activated in order to make those things happen. So you're absolutely right. It has to be practical. Obviously, we can't just be dreaming up that we want to drive a BMW next week. It's got to be, the goal must be vivid, must be clear, and then you can more definitively start seeing what the next step would be. So it's a combination of being able to visualize the goal and then work backward in terms of the helpful next steps that are going to help you to build that plan.
Yeah. Duncan, I just want to drop you for a second and have my producers see if they can get you on a different line. It's just every couple of words we're losing a word there or so. So let's see if we can get a slightly more stable line to continue our conversation. But our lines are open as always, and we always invite you to be a part of it. 086 000 2032 is the number that you can call us on. Or, of course, you can WhatsApp us on 061 410 4107. Do you manifest or visualize? What are your thoughts on concepts such as this? Do you think they work or don't work? Let's take a quick pause.
Slipper Day is on the 30th of May, and I'm helping to make big dreams come true. When you support Slipper Day, you're helping Reach for a Dream bring smiles and joy to children facing tough illnesses. Do you want to help too? You can visit reachforadream.org.za to find out more about Slipper Day. Let's do it for the dreamers! This is an SABC supported initiative.
It takes a while before these arch rivals meet in the final. But when they do, everything stops. Nabi is confident to delight the Amakhosi fans.
If the fans love Kaizer Chiefs, automatically love Nabi.
While the back-to-back victor, Rivero, chases the third consecutive title.
Whenever it's time to go, we're going with the intention to be competitive, to try to be better than the opponent.
This is the Nedbank Cup final. Yona, Yarona. Witness the Soweto Derby. Gold and Black battles it out with Black and White on Saturday, 10 May at 4:30 p.m. Streaming live on SABC Plus and SABC One. Then on SABC radio stations at 6 p.m. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport.
For the love of the game.
This Thursday on EFC, Africa's greatest meet the warriors of Brazil on a night where 3 titles will be contested. Amanda Lino takes on Mariana Salles. Willie Van Rooyen takes on Kleberson Sousa. And in the main event, JC Lamprecht goes to war with Luis Paulo Picanso for the light heavyweight title. EFC 123 live from the World Sports Betting Arena. Watch it on SABC Sport Channel on DTT Channel 4 from 7 p.m. Brought to you by SABC Sport.
Bridget Masinga, weekdays on The Full Circle.
All right, let's see if we can continue the conversation with Duncan Woods now, who is a human performance coach and executive coaching consultant. And Duncan, in your line of work, you use a technique called WHOOP, developed by a German psychologist. Tell us more about this particular technique and the 4 steps of it.
Said by a German psychologist. And 4 easy steps, each letter stands for a different step. So W stands for wish. So wish is really saying, what would I really like? What is it that I'm wanting to visualize and in order to attain it? So it starts out there, what is the thing that you're wanting? Decide what that is, get a bit of clarity on that, and that's step 1. Step 2 is a really interesting one, because step 2 stands for outcome, which means if I achieved it, how would I feel? So this is the really key part for me is once you've decided that I want that beautiful BMW that I've been dreaming of driving, the outcome is the step where you say, how would it feel if I actually achieved it? And you kind of, you lean into the senses a little bit more and say, visualize that it's already here. Mm-hmm. How would you feel? What would it do for you? How would it kind of be part of the future that you are imagining? The third step is the working step, because the fifth step is O for obstacle. So now you're starting to become a little bit of problem solving. You've imagined what the wish is, you've imagined how it would feel, and now you're starting to say, okay, let me just troubleshoot. What would the obstacles be for me to attain such a thing? And your brain immediately starts getting into problem solving mode, and you start to kind of look at all the practical steps that need to be either navigated or things that need to be overcome or the things that you would need to be addressing in order to get there. And then the final step is plan. P stands for plan. Once you have decided that despite the obstacles, this is something that I want and this is something that I feel is practical to achieve, the fourth step is plan. So you put the plan in place and you say, right, if this is going to be the case, this is what I need to, kind of the habits that I need to start putting into my life, whether it's saving, whether it's investing, whether it's kind of looking for a job that is the one that you feel will sustain the plan of having the BMW, and you start getting busy with the plan.
Do you find, because from what you're saying, sort of breaking down WHOOP for us, and from what you're saying, I feel as if, or maybe my feelings are wrong here, that a few folks miss the part of the obstacle, the pragmatically addressing your doubts and the barriers that could exist for you to taking your plan from a visualized ideation to a practical, tangible accomplishment.
100% agree with you. And I think that's the beauty of the plan, is that you almost like you are creating the story and you need to solve that step. You can't be, blaming the world why you don't have the BMW, blaming the world why you don't have the job that you always wanted to have. It starts kind of saying, take ownership of the wish, take ownership of the outcome, and let's take ownership of this. And we're going to be the ones who are going to solve the problem. And I've always loved that, the saying, there's no light at the end of the tunnel. You are the light at the end of the tunnel. And you are the one who's going to put this plan in place or not.
Now, when it comes to sort of visualizing, the in-between steps, I think, are probably the most fundamental parts of it, right? So what should one be asking themselves, especially when it comes to the obstacle bit? Because I feel like the first two, the W and the first O, stand for the dream. And we all know, to answer your first question of what does the picture of success look like and what does it feel like for you, we can all have those beautiful endorphins. But now the practical components, what should we be putting underneath that tab of obstacle and plan? What are those strategic questions or strategic guidelines that we should have in our review mirror as we move forward?
Yes, I think you're right. I think it's a combination of the first two being almost defining what we're looking at, right? So they are a little bit more imaginative. You've unlocked the imaginative part of your brain that can see the future, that can picture the future and how it will feel and how how it will make you feel different about yourself. The obstacle and the plan are the ones where you need to kind of click from an imagination rather to more practical, and that's when you can start to say, well, okay, what are the key things that need to be done in order for this to happen? And in those, there's going to be big items, and there's going to be small items. So the big items might be, right, if I really want to drive a BMW, the big items might be, well, let me just understand what is the purchase price and what financing options are available. And then the small agenda items might be the things that, if I'm going to be able to do that within a reasonable time frame, what are the small daily habits? Maybe it's saving, maybe it's looking at your other habits where the money is currently being spent. It's more the practical aspect of what are the big items and what are the little items, and then let me be really practical about making sure those all line up with my dream, with my wish.
The benefits of young people in a country like ours being sort of taught visualization using these steps, what would you say those are?
So the benefit, these days there's so much, there's so much visual stimulation. So I think, in maybe 15 years ago, 20 years ago in the self-help, there was vision boards and things which kind of people recommended that young people built to kind of picture the career or picture the future or picture the things that you want to be turning up. These days we've got so much visual stimulation that it can actually be really helpful for young people to kind of be able to vividly picture it, gather kind of visual sources that help make your visualization easier to be real. And then the more you can provide stimuli, your brain starts wanting it to happen. Your brain is actually you're following your own commands, right? So if young people could say, this is the career I want, or this is the future that I want, and they can start gathering visual sources, it'll help them to visualize, and then their actions start to almost fall in line. And the brain is very smart. It can say, well, you said you wanted this career, but you're spending all your time on the gaming or on doing other things which are not leading you there. So it almost becomes almost a self-management process where you can dream, and I encourage everyone to be dreaming, but it helps you to fall in line and build the plan behind the dream, which will then hopefully not lead towards disappointment.
Is there a backup to, should you falter at that planning stage of whoop? How do you then get yourself back on track? And what caveat is unmentioned there at the end of whoop to say, we understand that the plan can sometimes derail, or maybe for whatever reason you start swaying and faltering from it. but how do we get you back to that P?
Great question. So we always believe that high performance happens every day, right? So sometimes it's easy to think that, high performance is the day that you take the keys from the dealership and you drive out the thing. But actually, high performance is really the small habits that you put in place every day. So to answer your question, Bridget, my biggest advice to everyone is look at your daily habits that are in place and step back and look at them. And if those daily habits are accumulating into the place you want to be, then you're on track. If you find yourself falling off, just step back, look at how the days are being spent, how your time is being invested. We sometimes say your diary must be your development plan. Mm-hmm. So you look at your diary and you say, well, am I using my time in the similar or same manner as the attainment of my goal? And often that can be a little bit of a reality check, but the helpful thing is to know that if you do something consistently every day, habits is what drives high performance. And that's why if you falter, and you will falter, have a look at your daily habits, start small, do the small things that lead you towards your dream.
All right. I mean, listen, it sounds like a doable plan. And one of our listeners here says, he does both through holistic approaching, journalism, increased confidence and positive mindset. And I think that speaks to what you've just said about, the plan being broken down into steps, and also your diary being a great guide to see whether or not you are tracking to where you're supposed to.
Absolutely, and I think the listeners mentioned journaling. I think journaling there's a huge amount of research that says if you write something down, you have a much higher likelihood of actually achieving it. So absolutely great to hear that journaling is working for the listener.
Well, we appreciate the time with you. That was Duncan Woods, who's a human performance coach and the executive coaching consultant as well. So whether you are visualizing, following the guidelines of visualization, and WHOOP, which is wish for it, define what it is that you want. Outcomes connect with how it makes you feel and what it would mean for you to have it. Before you move on to the obstacle, where you practically are engaging your brain in the problem-solving approach of what needs to be addressed. The challenges, the doubts, the setbacks, the burdens, what needs to be addressed in order for you to actually see that wish become a reality, and then plan it out down to the most finite of details. And we often get stuck there in the obstacles and the planning, right? That's where a lot of us get stuck in this challenge. It's 2:30. Ondelambana is standing by with the news headlines, and then we're going to get into our kids programming.
Thank you, Bridget. On the news headlines, Mpumalanga Premier Mandla Ndlovu says 8 officials were involved in the over 2 million rand laptop procurement scandal. Ndlovu has revealed that the procurement process of the 22 laptops bought by the Provincial Education Department was flawed. 4 illegal immigrants have been arrested during a City of Johannesburg-led operation at an illegally occupied building in the CBD today. And Air France and Germany's Lufthansa say they're avoiding Pakistani airspace until further notice due to worsening relations between Islamabad and Delhi. A full update follows at the top of the hour.
You're listening to Bridget Masinga on SAFM. This program is brought to you by SABC Education, enriching minds, enriching lives.
Hello, my name is Arham Ahmed and I am 11 years old. When I grow up, I want to be an actor. I like reading and speaking in class. My sister is an actor and just got in the Miss essay. I have visited my sister and her friends once. It was so fun. To prepare, I study hard. I would ask her, how do I make myself confident in acting?
Greetings, my name is Praise Ziba. When I grow up, I would love to be an engineer. And the subject that I'll be doing in activities will be practical in order for me to understand better. One of the subjects that I'll be practicing is called civil technology, and it could help me in the future job that I want to be in. I know someone who has the job I want, and I would admire them to help me because I think they are very good and efficient in their job. And I've never been to their workplace to see what they do, but the things that I can do now at school is to practice and do small practicals that may benefit me and get ready for my dream job. And I want to ask a grown-up in my career field to help me with some practicals that I don't understand and the things that will benefit me when I grow up and when I'm occupied in my career field. Thank you.
My name is Netemba and my surname is Bavuma. I am 10 years old. When I grow up, I want to be a pilot. The job interests me because I get to fly airplanes. I enjoy playing airplane games so that I can learn how to fly an airplane. No, I don't know anyone. I have been to the airport and saw some pilots fly airplanes. I can study hard so that I can reach my dream job. How much do pilots earn?
Hi, my name is Danny Code. When I grow up, I want to be a forensic psychologist. That job interests me a lot because I find it very interesting dealing with forensics and what happened on crime scenes and trying to find criminals in places. I find it very interesting. Subjects and activities that I enjoy that could help me with my future job is probably biology, because you deal with the human body, and it's interesting because it tells you what certain parts of the body need to function and what is the main purpose of each part of the body. I don't know anyone who has the job that I want, but I have seen people in documentaries and I really admire them for their hard work and their dedication towards the job. Things that I can do now at school or at home to help me get ready for my future job could possibly be to be more attentive and to analyze things. If I could ask a grown-up in my dream job one question, I would ask them, is it worth it? Because sometimes it can be very traumatizing to be in that career field, as you can see some very traumatizing things. So I would ask them, is the job really worth it? Yeah, thank you.
Good day everyone, my name is Kawega Zimayana. Today I'm going to talk about which of the subjects at school are more about what or who I want to be when I grow up. In the subjects I'm doing, mathematics is more about who I want to be when I grow up. In order to be a doctor, I need to do biology, chemistry and mathematics. I do consider mathematics is the best subject. Maths is definitely my favorite subject. I like, or should I say I love mathematics because I love doing multiplication, long division and problem solving. I haven't done chemistry yet, but I think it's fun using test tubes, Florence flasks and beakers for experiments. Biology seems kind of hard, but I'm sure I'll manage. In biology, you learn about or you study dentistry for those who want to be dentists, nursing for our future nurses, medicine and science. Thank you very much for listening. I hope you have a great day further on. Goodbye.
Hello, my name is Mane Angel Ngobera. So the subjects that I'm doing, the one which is more about what I want to be when I grow up is mathematics and science. And it is only 2 subjects, so I do consider them my favorite subjects. It is mathematics and natural science and technology, but I would say technology the most because it gets to teach me more about the career that I want to be doing for the rest of my life. And yes, I would like to continue with that because of that reason. Thank you and have a lovely day.
Hello friends, it's a new month and happy Monday. Today let's talk about something really exciting. What you want to be when you grow up. Have you ever thought about your dream job? Maybe you want to be a doctor, a teacher, a soccer star, an artist, a scientist, or even an astronaut. Whatever it is, it's fun to imagine yourself doing something you love one day. Think about the things you enjoy now. Maybe you love drawing, solving puzzles, building things, helping others, or playing outside. All those interests can be clues to the kind of job you might enjoy in the future. Did you get that? Let me repeat it again. All those interests can be clues to the kind of job you might enjoy in the future. Do you know someone who already has a job you dream of? Maybe he's a parent, a teacher, a neighbor, or someone you've seen on TV. What do you admire about them? Have you ever had the chance to visit where they work and see what they do? That's a great way to learn more and get inspired. Even though you're still young, there are lots of things you can do right now to get ready for your future career. You can work hard at school, ask questions, practice your talents, and always be curious and kind. And if you had the chance to ask someone in your dream job one question, what would it be? Maybe you'd ask them how they got there, what they love most about their job, or what advice they'd give someone like you. Always remember that your dreams are powerful, and with learning, effort, and a bit of courage, you can grow up to be anything you want to be. So keep dreaming, keep exploring, and keep believing in yourself. Until next time, future stars, keep shining bright.
This program was brought to you by SABC Education. Enriching minds, enriching lives.
The Blues and Gold ladies want to treat their clash against the Blue Diamonds like a final exam. They are chasing victory. But the visitors are confident they will prevail and conquer the entire match duration. This is the Hollywood Bet Super League. Witness UWC Ladies FC versus JBW Ladies FC on Sunday 11 May at 2:30 p.m. Streaming live on SABC Plus and SABC One. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport.
For the love of the game.
Marawai, why did you think you could change your tire when you've never even changed a light bulb successfully? Marawai, why not switch to Santam and get 24/7 roadside assistance to get you moving again? Choose the insurer with cover options that suit your needs. Call 0860 444 or SMS cover to 36101. Santam. This is freedom. Santam is an authorized FSP, a licensed non-life insurer and controlling company for its group companies.
Bafana want to seal their envelope to East Africa with a paramount victory in front of their home fans. But the Flames plan to double the heat. This is the second leg of the final round of the Total Energies CAF Chan 2025 qualifiers. South Africa tackles Malawi on Sunday 11 May at 2:30 p.m. Streaming live on SABC Plus, SABC 2 and SABC Sport on DTT Channel 4. Also available on SABC radio stations at 3 p.m. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport.
For the love of the game.
You're listening to Bridget Masinga on SAFM.
All right, we are talking the mother wound now. Sunday is Mother's Day. And you know, on Mother's Day, we take a moment to celebrate women who've birthed and nurtured us, whether we're talking non-biological or biological mommies. But what happens when your mother has been the root of all of your pain and suffering, causing what's now being termed as mother wound? And we touched a little bit on this last year as well. We thought we'd invite Moshitari Lihlomela, who is a mother wound healing coach and author of The Girl Who Survived Her Mother, Navigating and Healing the Mother Wound, into this conversation. How are you doing this afternoon?
I'm doing great, Bridget. Thank you for having me.
Thank you for taking the time. Much appreciated. I mean, we've sort of recognized this term now, right? A lot of us watched Oprah in conversation with Brooke Shields after she wrote her memoirs, touching on what's now become known as the mother wound. Unpack for some of our listeners who might not be familiar as to what are we talking about when we talk the mother wound?
So the mother wound is basically just trauma or pain or unhealthy coping mechanisms and belief systems that you develop as a result of having an unhealthy relationship with your mom, or sometimes just a non-existent relationship. Either you were abandoned or your mother died when you were young. So this becomes something that you then get to struggle with as an adult, and that's why we call it the mother wound. But it's a bit more layered. So when people talk about the mother wound, oftentimes they talk about their personal experiences with their mom, because this is something that is visible, that is something that they feel on a daily basis. So this is the personal mother wound. It is about day-to-day relations with your mom, and you can explain it, right? And we have the cultural mother wound, which is oftentimes has to do with where you were raised, the culture where you were raised, especially when it comes to women, the way we are socialized to see ourselves, the way we are socialized to internalize misogyny and patriarchy. That also is part of the mother wound, because oftentimes mothers are the ones that are perpetuating or instilling these messages to their daughters in the home. And then we have the biological mother wound. Now we getting to understand the work around epigenetics and how trauma actually changes the way our DNA expresses itself, so we can actually pass trauma to the next generation through the womb. So there's 3 layers to it, which is the personal, and then the cultural, and then we have the biological mother wound.
I mean, it's very in depth, right? When you sort of unpack it from those 3 layers, the personal, the cultural, and the biological, because to some degree, I almost say parents can only parent you in the way that they were parent. Or as Mel Robbins will say, that, you know, someone can only come to you with the healing that they themselves have healed. So if someone is not healed from their own scars and can't even identify their own scars, it becomes a bit difficult for them to be able to course correct that when they are parents.
Yeah, absolutely. But also, it's not just the trauma that our parents went through. There's also belief systems that our society sort of perpetuates about children, in the same way that our society has seen women as a lower class or a lesser class than men. That also tends to happen with children, where people don't see children as human beings, and that dictates how they end up having to treat children. So there's the part that you were talking about, which is the trauma, which is oftentimes the result of the abuse that happens in the mother-child relationship. But we also have the belief systems that we have to now unpack and say to people, you have to question the way that you view children, because the way you view children also informs how you then get to relate to children.
And you write this book mainly based on your own personal experiences and navigating and healing from your own mother wound, which was also, you interrogated the sort of intergenerational connection of your experience, your mom and your paternal grandmother, and ultimately, of course, you growing up in that environment.
Yeah. And that is the case for a lot of people. This trauma or the mother wound just keeps, the cycle just keeps going in families until someone says, hey, something is a bit off here, or I really don't like how this feels. Is there any other way that we can have a relationship that doesn't look like this? And then we then begin the work of healing. But it was very important for me to paint that picture, not only of my mom's mom and then my mother, but also my paternal grandmother, because she played a role in raising my mother. And that is also another mother wound, where mother-in-laws tend to inflict a lot of pain to their daughters-in-law. That becomes a mother wound. So it was very important to me to speak about these female relationships and how they shape how I as a woman got to see myself and how I got to navigate the world as a woman.
What was the the impact for you, just reflecting back on those moments and as you went about the journey of writing, what was the impact or revelation of that relationship dynamic between yourself and your mother and ultimately your grandmothers, and how that has shown up, particularly, I guess, in a negative, as you sort of assert yourself as an adult woman?
Yes. Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of things. I mean, one of them was the shame, just walking in the world and navigating the world as someone that feels like I wasn't good enough, that I wasn't worthy, that I wasn't lovable. I use the word disposable a lot in my book because that's how I felt the most as a child, that I was just a thing that is disposable. And that was because I had many siblings, and one of the things that would be said would be, "Lego kahwa, it's fine, I have other kids." You know, you internalize that message as, "Oh, I'm not important. I could disappear and no one would care." And that is a message that I carried throughout my life, just feeling like I was such a disposable thing. And it showed up in the way that I approached my career, in the way that I approached relationships, friendships. I just never had a sense of belonging in those relationships as a result of that belief system that I had as a result of that. But there was also the toxic guilt. And that toxic guilt just showed up in what people call people pleasing now, just the inability to set boundaries. I mean, the first time I set boundaries with my parents, I was 30, right? And it was sort of forced to set those boundaries. So I always just never thought that I could say no to my parents, that I could say I can't do that. And that's what most people find themselves in. The people who are much older than me, who I coach, who are still in that state of just not being able to say no. And it also translates into other parts of their lives, relationships, work, where they're just not able to say, this is a bit too much for me, I can't do this. But the main thing that led me to my healing was the toxic fear, and how the toxic fear showed up was anxiety for me. I had the worst anxiety. I'd had it since I was a child, and when I was becoming an adult, it was getting worse, and I was drinking a lot. And I remember just thinking, is there any way that I could deal with this without the prescribed way of, oh, you have to take the meds because this is a chemical imbalance?
Yeah.
And having to do that work. So right now I'm anxiety free, and it's one of those things that I've had to do the work for and get to this place.
When did you connect, Moshitari? When did you connect the anxiety and the people pleasing and all those behaviors to your mother wound? Because I think a lot of the times, unless one has gone through therapy, it becomes difficult for people to, and maybe I don't know if one is able to make those connections if one has not gone through therapy. When did that connection resonate?
For me it was exactly through that way as well. I went to therapy when I was in varsity, and it was my therapist at the time who made the connection between my childhood and what I was struggling with. I didn't have the language for it even then. I just knew that I didn't feel okay, that I was constantly having panic attacks, that I was having faint spells. And she asked more about my childhood, then we were able to get to a point of saying, there's a lot of things that happened to you that were not supposed to happen. And I'm like, oh, but all the African children go through this. This is normal. We get beaten. We get this and that. And they're like, no, actually, these things affect you as an adult, you know? And also it helps that I'm such a nerd that loves to read. So if you tell me something, I'm going to research on it until I get all the information in regards to it.
Yeah.
But also I think now people are lucky with social media. I mean, they have to be really careful and actually work with people that are trauma informed. But there's a lot of information out there that gives people the language to explain and to make connections in regards to what they're struggling with.
Absolutely. Are you able at this point, having done the work, the emotional work, the psychological work, are you able at this point to also show your mom some grace and understanding,
absolutely,
that she too is the result of her circumstances? What did Maya Angelou say? When you know better, you do better.
Yeah, but that's not always true as well. There are people who know better now who just not to do better. I mean, there's like arguments happening on Twitter all the time about, hey, don't hit kids because it affects them. People are like, we are going to hit them. So they do have the information. They've been taught that it's not okay, but they continue to do it. So I caution people around focusing a lot on their mom and what their mom went through, because only their mom knows if what is happening to them and the way they treated them is because of the trauma, is because of what they know, or if it's just a choice. Because sometimes people choose to be terrible, and we can't say because someone is a mom, then they can't choose to be terrible. So there's different reasons why our moms treat us the way that they do, and it's not our work to decipher why that is. Our work is to focus on healing the wound that they've left us with.
Yeah. I mean, interesting, and I think that would lead to a whole nother conversation between you and I around, yes, to some degree, circumstance, background, choice as well. But I guess also a lot of therapists would say that choice is as a result of circumstance and background. It's also not an abstract thing. It's informed by people's experiences. So what might seem like choice to you and I, like a flippant choice to you and I, is actually informed by someone's experiences, personal journeys, background, etc., etc. It's multi-layered. But as you stand here today, would you say healing from your mother wound is a work still in progress, or are you on the other side of it now?
I don't think there's like an end goal to this. Sometimes you think, hey, I'm like on the other side. I figured this out. And then something else happens. You're like, wait, that was also a thing that I'm supposed to deal with. But you get better at it as you learn better coping mechanisms. And that's the thing about healing, though. And this is also something that I say to my clients, is it's not going to guarantee you that you are not going to have heartbreak, that you are not going to have regrets, that you're not going to make mistakes, that you are not going. There's a lot of life that is going to happen to you. Part of the reparenting work and the healing is learning how to navigate the life in a healthy way, in a way that doesn't cause you more harm.
Absolutely.
Right? So even with the healing, it's pretty much that, learning better coping mechanisms. And if life throws something at me, then I'm like, wait, I don't have to hate myself.
Absolutely.
This is something that happens, and that is pretty much it for me. And I don't think you get to the end of it. I think it becomes a practice. It becomes a part of life.
Moshitari Lihlomela, thank you so much for the time. And she's the author of The Girl Who Survived Her Mother, Navigating and Healing the Mother Wound, and a Mother Wound Healing Coach. Let's take a quick break and then we'll come back on the other side. We'll wrap up the show on a note. I don't know if it's a high note or an interesting note or what note, but we're going to double back to your WhatsApps around traveling the continent.
The Saints understand it's too late to change things around, but it's never too late to be defending champions and bow with pride.
He chips the goalkeeper! It's an absolute beauty! It's an absolute beauty from Musa.
However, the citizens are forced to settle for a top 3 finish. They want nothing but 3 vital points.
Absolutely magnificent goal. Well, Phil Foden is still in a heap near the halfway line, but credit Andy Madley. He allowed City to continue.
This is the Premier League. Experience the superb battle between Southampton FC and Manchester City FC on Saturday 10 May at 3:30 p.m. Streaming live on SABC Plus and S3. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport.
For the love of the
game. You are listening to The Full Circle.
All right, it is the last bit of the show right now, and then we thought that we would double back to your WhatsApps around traveling Africa. I got a message from Umani. Notawe. Ati December 2024. We walked in the rain with the guide across the iconic Zakungula Hey, KwaZungula. Sorry, my bad. KwaZungula Bridge. There we go. KwaZungula Bridge to experience the Quadro Point. That is, I'm presuming the Quadro Point is where it intersects Zambia, Namibia, Botswana, and Zimbabwe. It was fun. That was Unokawe out in Pretoria or in Pietermaritzburg. What's going on with me today in Pietermaritzburg? And then we have another one that says traveled a bit in other countries in Africa. Last one was Tanzania. Felt very safe there. Felt very unsafe in Mozambique. Why? I feel very unsafe here at home. I understand. But I'd love to know why you feel unsafe in Mozambique. Let's play some voice notes.
Afternoon, Bridget. Bridget, I want to echo the sentiments that some African countries are very, very, very accommodative towards visitors. I once worked in Zimbabwe until 2006. I was in a private company, I don't know how to call the name, beverage company. The people of Zimbabwe. The people of Zimbabwe, they are very appreciative. They are very appreciative. They are loving. Now, it's a pity that I didn't come with the wife. Kanyesa in command.
Good day, Bridget and the listeners. It's Pindile from Stexprate. We recently returned from Rwanda. It was a boys' trip. The country is very clean and safe. Police are everywhere, and the crime. It's very, very. I don't think there's crime there. The only thing that I found that was weird is having police and traffic cops, but the people are driving like Omakers are here in South Africa. I wish South Africa could implement that policy that they have, having like the country is so clean and law and order. Otherwise we enjoyed ourselves in Rwanda. Big ups to Rwandan. The plastic thingy though, having ice in a khwashaza. Ask any closer what a khwashaza is, they will tell you it's very weird.
Good day, SFM. I am so I'm loving your guests. Such an interesting program, and I have been saying it to my friends in my circles that people need to travel Africa. Africa is very interesting. Africa is alive. Africa is interesting. Yeah, it's a bit costly sometimes, but do go to Malawi, do go to Lake Malawi, do go to Angola, do go to Mozambique, do go to Inyambane, do go to Pemba, do go to Nampula, do go to Tanzania, go to Dar es Salaam, take a boat for 2 hours to the island, to Zanzibar, instead of a 25-minute flight, and meet the people, interact with the people. Get to Zanzibar and take a cab, find a nice pub, have a local beer.
You have definitely traveled the continent, and I think Mozambique is your favorite because you mentioned almost every stop in Mozambique. You just forgot Bileni and you forgot Shai Shai. That is where we leave it today. Thank you so much for choosing to be in conversation with us. Ashraf is standing by to take over after the news. Inshallah, God willing, we'll do it again.
Thank you, Bridget. Top stories at 3. Mpumalanga Premier reveals the outcome of laptop purchase probe, and international airlines avoid Pakistani airspace. For SFM News, I am Ondalambana, and a very good day. Mpumalanga Premier Mandla Ndlovu says 8 officials were involved in the over 2 million rand laptop procurement scandal. Ndlovu has revealed that the procurement process of the 22 laptops bought by the Provincial Education Department was